So Alice was my mom. So obviously I've known her my whole life, and I'm thankful for that. Not many people can say that. She was genuinely a very sweet person. Everybody that talks about her says that, and it's absolutely true. What I can say about her is that she was a really genuine human being. She wasn't complicated. She liked a lot of really simple, wonderful things in life. She loved the outdoors, plants, flowers, birds, animals. She loved sports, just a lot of fun, basic things. And she just got passionate about all those things. She loved sewing, she loved quilting, she loved making things, cooking. I think one of the big things that carried on to the very end of her life was her love for animals. Every time she saw an animal, she wanted to pet that animal, put a cat on her lap, give a dog a treat. That was just part of her and her sweetness, I think. But as far as the winery goes, my parents didn't have any kind of experience running a business. Really, none of us did that much. So when we started, I don't think we went into it from a business perspective. And I think in a lot of ways, that's kind of why it has been so genuine all these years, is because it was based on the personalities that started it and that were involved, rather than looking at it as a business. So there were 5 of us, and I was mostly in the cellar making wine, but the faces of the winery were my mom, Alice, and my Aunt Ann. And they were the best combination of people you can imagine, because she was sweet, welcoming, she would give people hugs, her smile would brighten everybody's day. Annie was witty and sassy and funny and just made people laugh constantly. And that carried on, and it carried on. They stayed with that winery as long as they possibly could. And it's been my goal to kind of carry on their presence and their spirit in this place, and I feel like her spirit is here all the time. We're still a very genuine business. We still welcome everyone. We still treat everyone like family. That's what they always did. That's what I always want to do. And she just loved everyone. She would brag about my winemaking. She would talk about her favorite wine, Treminette. She would talk about, my dad and how he, started this with his home winemaking and his love for the grapes. And she made everybody who walked through the door and everybody that worked here feel really great.
Hi, Alice was my mother-in-law. Compared to as long as she was around, I didn't really get to know her that much, but what I did, it was great. She was an amazing woman. Like Kylie was saying, around here, she would just make everybody feel good, and everybody wanted to come see her and stuff. And I don't know, she was always out walking around doing something, picking flowers. I always kind of thought of her of like the Energizer Bunny. She was their mom, because her energy, especially in her late years, was just really remarkable, and how she just kept going all the time and just loved life so much. It was really great to get to know her.
Okay, where do I start? There's so many memories of my mom and her twin and cousins and all the things we did together, and just basically, she's the sweetest person I've ever known, and I've always strived to be more like her than anyone can be.
The first thing I remember she said to me when Tom was outside building something at Heather's house, she looked at me and she said, "If you're not going to stay with him, you should leave now." So I took that as he was very, very big mama's boy, and I stuck around.
Yes, I was a mama's boy.
We eventually lived with them for a little while our first house was being built. And I wasn't a very good cook, because my mother honestly is not a very good cook. She said, "Honey, you can read, you can cook." And, she said, "Just be confident. If you don't like the way it comes out the first time, make a few changes. He'll eat it. He's a man.
She did make the best banana cream pie around, though.
She did. She was an amazing mother-in-law. I couldn't ask for a better person to come into my life. She was wonderful. She taught me how to garden, cook. She helped with the grandkids, and she gave me a wonderful husband.
So my name is Scott Heather, and Alice was not only my aunt, my mother's twin sister, but also my godmother. And one of the cute stories that she told me a few years ago was when I was going to be baptized, and since she was my godmother, she was the one that was going to hold me during the ceremony. And so she brought me up the aisle in the church and got up front, and she looked at me a couple years ago and smiled, and she said, "And I didn't drop you." That was important to her, apparently. She and my mother loved Sinatra, so anytime we were in the car, Sinatra was on, and they're playing some Sinatra here in her honor today. She loved birds, and I took my mother and her on a trip up to Isle Royale National Park one time, and we were out canoeing, and there was a loon following us, and the loon would drop down under the water and then pop up on the other side of the canoe. And Alice just absolutely loved that. So made her happy, and it made me happy. So she was wonderful to us, and I have nothing but warm, loving memories of her. So thank you very much.
Alice was beloved with our whole family. I remember we went to her house a lot, and anytime we got there, there was something baking. I remember the smell of fresh bread, muffins, cookies, pies. There was never a time where you were going to go away hungry from Aunt Alice. And she also had a garden in the backyard, and that's how I learned some of my gardening back there. She absolutely loved everything she did. She did 100%, but mostly she loved her family. And my brother and I were talking about it the other day, and we just have the best memories of going over to her house. And so she had a wonderful life. My mother was her twin, and so within the year they both passed away. So they're probably twinning wherever they are.
Okay, I am Nicole Moffatt, and I am Alice's granddaughter. And in 2016, 17, 18, and 19, I got the opportunity to come here and work at the winery and hang out with the family. But every weekend that I came here, I spent the weekend with Alice and Norm, and so I got this beautiful time with my grandparents, and I just got to ask them questions about their relationship and their lives and the things that they did, and just found out that they were the coolest human beings ever. And we also we all knew that Alice and Norm were the coolest people, but just to be so, I don't know, well-rounded, and just to know so many things about the world, and for them to pass their knowledge and wisdom on to me, it was time that I will value for the rest of my life. And so I'm really thankful for it.
Well, Alice is my godmother. Her and my mother had gone to high school together, and they attended each other's weddings. So needless to say, Alice has been part of my life for my entire life. She was there when I was born, and she's always been very special to me and very sweet. And we had a lot of good life experiences together. Norm's legacy is obvious. Any man would love to leave something behind as wonderful as the winery is. And Alice, the same thing. Alice was always the most sweetest, kindest person. And if we ever needed anything, she was there. I have all kinds of memories as a child of going out on the cruiser and being on the Detroit River and being at the Pagoda House on Grosse Ile. And being here today has brought a lot of those wonderful memories back. The first time we came out here was right after my mother had died, and she never got to see how wonderful this was. Never got to see the winery develop. Uncle Norm used to pick cherries from my mom and dad's backyard from the cherry tree and make wine from that. And that's really where a lot of this started. And we used to pick grapes off our grapevines in the backyard in Southfield, and to see it develop into such a great thing is phenomenal. And I have a lot of good memories of both of them, not just Alice, but Norm as well. And I wish I had a glass of wine here to toast, but I don't.
My name is Denise, and we have been coming to Sandhill since they opened. And in the early days, we were so excited about the winery because, you know, wineries weren't a thing then like they are now. So we thought we were in on the ground floor of something amazing, right? So we asked, you know, if you need anything, and so we were on the volunteer list, and we volunteered bottling primarily. And when we bottled back in those days, Alice would make the lunches. And I don't know which was funner, the bottling or the lunches, because her lunches were always so incredibly good. And I was just thinking about how, you know, vegetarian food also wasn't that big of a thing then. So she would make these meatless meals, and you wouldn't even sort of recognize that they were meatless, like it didn't even register, because it was just so good, and a dessert. And then we'd have all the bottles of wine sort of in the center of the table, you know, the half bottle here and the third of a bottle there, and that one's got a little bit left. And so it was just such a fun time. Lunch was so fun. So anyway, Alice's lunches were amazing. And she's the kind of person who never stopped moving. So it wasn't like you could sit and talk to Alice. Alice was in your view, moving about. So the other thing I was thinking about is when we would come, she would always be like, ah, and she would stop what she was doing, and she would run over and give you the hugest hug and the hugest kiss. And then, of course, she had to go off and do whatever she was doing, which was usually working at the serving area or... And the last thought I have is really we're closing in on maybe 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, was it even? And we started coming and we would hang with the old ladies. We would hang with Alice and Ann. And we would always share a table, and you know, we'd tell the stories. We didn't have much to talk about exactly, but we tried. So one night, it was the winter solstice, and we're sitting around a sort of a bonfire situation, and the topic moved to Broadway musicals. And who doesn't love Broadway musicals? And Anne is like, oh my God, I love this one, and I love this one. And Alice is like, oh, well, I love this one. And we knew them all because we'd been to most of those musicals. And, you know, Deb says, oh, you know, Cats is out at the theater. So the next day, we go to Cats, all four of us, and it was just such a good time. And they're singing along with Cats. It was so fun. And then I remember also going to Olive Garden. And I'm like, oh, you know, Alice has such a refined palate. She's such a great cook. Oh, no, she loved Olive Garden, and we had such a good time at Olive Garden. So anyway, those are just some memories. Sweet, sweet old ladies.
Well, we've been coming to, like Denise said, to Sandhill for many years, probably right from the beginning. And my earliest memories of coming here is with Alice and Ann, and both of those women were just fabulous. But Alice was extremely loving. She would give you the big hello. She'd give you this great big hug. You really felt that you were really important to her. And I know that it felt so genuine. It wasn't like you were getting this obligatory hug from somebody because you really felt her when she would give you a hug. Alice was such a big presence here. her and Ann both. And what is really amazing is that the atmosphere when you came here is you felt like you were part of a community, part of Sandhill, and Holly has continued that. Like she's gotten her mom's personality and her loving feelings, and you feel like you're a part of that. You need to be here. Like this is where this is important. You are important, and being a part of Sandhill is important. So that's my big memory of Alice. I loved her to pieces. I felt like every time I was coming here, I was going to go see my aunt or something because you just felt so close to her.
Alice used to call me Cookie. That was my nickname. I don't know if it was because I made cookies or she'd always come. She would get up in the morning and pick flowers for the cafe and bring them in and want to trade for a cookie. The oatmeal was her favorite. I love to hear stories about how the vineyard came about. She told me the story about the rose bushes near the vineyards, near the vines, because the rose bushes were like the canary in the cave. They would be susceptible to anything scary that could get to the grapes, and then you would see it in the rose bushes. So that's what the rose bushes are next to all the grapes. Oh, she was such a sweet lady, she and Lou, and I loved memories of them in their little matching outfits and tooling around in the golf cart on the grounds, and she just loved everybody. And I miss her a lot, and very sweet lady. I just loved her, and I miss her calling me Cookie. I'm so grateful to have known them and got to spend so much time with them, and just being a part of all of this and this family and this special place. It makes me very happy and very grateful.
Alice was very, very, very kind. In the years I've known her, as a customer, as a co-worker, I had yet to hear her say anything bad about anybody. She's always had kind words to say about people, and no matter how cantankerous a customer could be, she always, had good things to say. She always had a smile on her face, and she was very, very lovely person. Very, very proper too. She was very well mannered, and I'd say she just was the sweetest person I met here. And at Sandhill Crane, there are a lot of sweet people here. Some more sweet than others. But Alice is definitely the sweetest person there, I think. She was one of the reasons why I started working at Sandhill Crane Vineyards. And when an opening was made for the Dexter tasting liaison, I wasn't sure if I was ready for such a responsibility, but she was actually the main person who was in my corner. She convinced me to go for it, and she told me that when they had an interview to determine who would be tasting liaison, she said, I had your back, because I know that you make a good fit for that job, and I want you to stay within the business. She's one of the people that is the reason why I'm still in the business. I want to say for some 15 plus years now. So she is one of the main reasons why, why I'm in the industry. So you can thank her or blame her, I guess. Showing her some classic videos that I found online, like people doing certain dances back in the 30s and 40s, and she goes, oh, I recognize that. That's the Lindy house. Oh, you know, I know this one. I know that one. You know, she knew the classics very well. I'd say that. And I just one other thing I would say too about Alice is that I like to think that she at times kept Norm on an even keel, sort of thing. Norm is a hell of a guy. Love him dearly. He can be a little prickly at times. Alice was kind of like was the moderating influence. I think she was the moderating influence for a lot of the people here. You know, it's like if there was an issue, you know, you could talk to her and she'd give you wisdom and things would feel all right. I think that I would say that I appreciated her a lot. And even though she's not as, what's the word I'm looking for? She kind of was like a little bit of the quiet partner to Anne. You know, kind of like, you know, if you have a comedic duo, you know, you had Anne being the one getting the laughs and stuff, and Alice being a little bit, not quite, but a little bit of the straight guy sort of thing. But, you know, she had more of a quiet influence. It was very much profound, I would say. So, here's to Alice.
My favorite Alice story. One night Casey and I were here right before Christmas, and Alice was talking about her Christmas Eve dinner. She was telling us all that she was going to be making. She was talking about this bacon-wrapped shrimp that she had to make for Christmas Eve. And when I looked at her and asked, Alice, isn't Heather and Holly vegetarians? She says, yes, but I don't care. That is my favorite Alice story.
All I have to say is God bless Alice. She was wonderful. When we would live in Grass Lake and come here, she was a sweetheart of an angel. Her and her daughters. We would come at the front. They had the bar stools at the front, and she was so kind to us and always accommodating. She was an angel. Always just a sweetheart smile. Just a beautiful lady. God bless Alice and the family.
Hi. My favorite memory of Alice was when we used to bottle out here early on. We would bottle and we would come up at noon, and Alice would have a nice meal for us. Alice was a tremendous cook, but on top of that, she was an absolute sweetheart, just a wonderful lady, and love her to death.
So we came out here, and then by the time we came out here after one or two times, there was a whole group of us that came out here, including Kim, who just spoke, and many of them bottled. I think my husband and Greg and I were the only ones that did not bottle because we were always busy dancing. But we did a lot of dancing here, too.
We made up for it drinking. Yeah.
But Alice is an angel. Alice was very special to all of us. And one of the things that happened was my husband was from the same area as Alice, and her niece and Greg's sister were really good friends, and we learned that. And that was Chadsey High School, which you guys all see in there on the display. And so we ended up bringing Greg's sister here, and that was one of our favorite memories. But just every memory was fun with Alice and all of the people here. We've been coming since it was the one little room winery, and it's been a blessing and fun, and we still like it here.
I just have to say it's kind of ditto what Linda just said, because I think Alice was, even if you were as old as Alice, she was like everybody's mom.
Yes.
Everybody loved Alice. And she was married to, I loved Norm, but he was always a little grouchy, but she made up for all of that. And I think everybody that's sitting here right now, we came out here, gosh, all the time back then.
Yes, we did.
And that is when it was all down there. We didn't have any of this. Mm-hmm. And I actually went to Hawaii and stayed with them. I went there for a week, and it was just, I think maybe it was even 10 days, because they had a place in Hawaii. And then I was able Tom and I were able to actually go there for 2 weeks and stay there for free. So we did get to see a lot of Hawaii that we would have never, and they went to Hawaii every year. They had a lot of friends here. They loved everybody. I mean, even Norm. And he just had his days, but it's a lovely place. And I wish she was here, and she is an angel up there, because I'm going to cry.
Everyone loves Alice. Where the hell is Alice?
You can get any